Hello folks, my name is Ed, and I'm a visitor guide at the United States Capitol Visitor Center. Glad to have you join me on a video tour of the United States Capitol. This tour is designed for middle school students learning about American history and civics. Throughout the tour, I will be asking some questions, and to allow you to think about your answer, there will be a short pause. We are going to cover a lot of information and see some incredible art and architecture, and I don't want you to miss a thing. We have provided links to additional educational resources at the end of the tour and in the description of the video. Let's get started. When you think of Washington, D.C., what images come to mind? Many of us think of memorials to presidents like Washington, Jefferson, and Lincoln, or even our beautiful cherry trees in spring. How about this? This is the United States Capitol building. It's a symbol of American government and democracy around the world. It's not a monument or a museum. It's the building where the United States Congress makes laws. If you were traveling with your middle school group or your family, the first stop is the Capitol Visitor Center, a great place to prepare for a visit to the historic portions of the United States Capitol. The focal point of the Visitor Center is a 19.5-foot tall plaster model of the Statue of Freedom. This is the statue that stands atop the dome. Before we get into the art, architecture, and history of Congress, let's go back to the beginning of our country. The Constitution, ratified in 1788, formed a new federal government in 1789, with 3 branches of equal stature. What are the 3 branches? The legislative branch, or Congress, the executive branch, the President, and the judicial branch, the Supreme Court and the lower courts. The Constitution starts with 3 very important words. What are they? We, the people. What does that mean to you? What do you think it meant to the writers of the Constitution in 1788? The Constitution is divided into 7 parts, called Articles. Let's do a quick review of Article 1, the section about Congress. It takes up almost 2 of the 4 pages of the Constitution and establishes the House of Representatives and the Senate. It sets minimum age requirements for office, at least 25 years of age for the House and 30 years of age for the Senate. It establishes that every 2 years, all members of the House of Representatives and 1/3 of the Senate is up for election, with senators being elected for 6-year terms. Who are your members of Congress? It's easy to look them up online. Don't worry if you didn't get to write the internet addresses down. We will show multiple links to resources at the end of the video. Let's meet one of the men that was instrumental in establishing the legislative branch as we know it, Roger Sherman. We have a statue of him in the Capitol building. Let's go see it. Roger Sherman was from Connecticut, a small state by population. He realized that if the delegates at the Constitutional Convention agreed upon the original proposal of 2 legislative bodies, both based on population, the smaller states would never have a say in the direction of the country. Sherman proposed a different idea to the Constitutional Convention, and they adopted it, now known as the Great Compromise. Sherman proposed that the legislative branch be composed of 2 equal bodies, one based on the state's population, the House, and the other would represent states' interests, the Senate, by having 2 senators from each state. Let's continue to look around the room. What do we see? More statues. There are 12 more full-length statues in this space. Like Roger Sherman, they're part of the National Statuary Hall collection. Each state may give 2 statues to the collection. The statues in this space are one of 2 from the first 13 states. We will see many more state statues throughout the rest of our tour. At the end of our tour, there will be a link to learn more about your state statues. Did you notice anything else in this room? I am sure you noticed the many columns in the room. It's tough to miss them. These 40 columns are the main reason for the name of this room. It's called the crypt. I know many of you just said, a crypt is where people are buried. There's no one buried in our crypt, however. The important part of our crypt is structural. The crypt, with its many columns, is just like our Constitution. It is the foundation of the Capitol and supports everything above it. Since we have talked about the foundation, let's head up to the second floor and see what it's supporting. Welcome to the Rotunda. Let's take a minute to look around. What words would you use to describe this space? I have heard many people use the word majestic. Do you agree? The 36 windows lead our eye up to the top of the dome, where we see the first piece of art we are going to talk about. The painting above us is the Apotheosis of George Washington. It is 4,664 square feet. That's just a little bit smaller than a professional basketball court. It was painted by an Italian-American painter named Constantino Brumidi in less than a year in 1865. Brumidi elevates George Washington into the heavens amongst Roman gods and goddesses, who happen to have American contemporary people or inventions with them. Let's take a look at one of the goddesses. Do you see the woman with the red cape and spear? That's Minerva, goddess of wisdom. Can you recognize any of the people to the right of her? Maybe you recognize Benjamin Franklin. He invented the lightning rod. Samuel Morse, with the gray hair and beard, inventor of Morse code and his telegraph. Robert Fulton, with the brown hair, inventor of the first commercial steamboat. All are considered great American inventors. Brumidi paints 13 women representing the first 13 states and a banner in Latin, E pluribus unum. In English it means, out of many one. Why do you think this phrase was chosen? The motto signifies bringing 13 individual colonies together as one nation. And in this image, Washington sits at the center. The definition of apotheosis is the elevation of someone to divine status. So Brumidi's intention was to make George Washington godlike. Do you think George Washington would have liked this? Many people believe George Washington would not have liked this portrayal, and you may see why in a few minutes when we speak about another painting in this room. I'll be sure to ask you this question again. More than 2 million people stand under this painting each year. Many are here to take in the art and history by taking a tour. Others come for ceremonies, which might be to unveil a new piece of art into the Capitol Art Collection, honoring a person or a group of persons during a Congressional Gold Medal ceremony, or to pay respects during a lying in state. As we soar through the space, we see other paintings and some statues. We have 8 large oil paintings. 4 of them depict events during the Revolutionary period, all installed in 1826. The first painting might be one you recognize from your history book. This is the presentation of the Declaration of Independence. The final painting in the series is George Washington resigning his commission. Resigning his commission means that George Washington handed his military power back to Congress. And who does Congress represent? That's right, we, the people. He handed power back to the people. What might have happened if he didn't resign this commission? And he did this again when he decided to serve only 2 terms as president. Now that you know a little bit more about him, let's revisit that earlier question. How do you think George Washington would have felt about Brumidi's Apotheosis painting? Even though the Constitution refers to we, the people, not every person in America was included when the document was written. The Constitution was created to be an adaptable document through the addition of amendments. How has the people changed over time? What are some of the events that led to the change? As you look at the artwork, answer this. If you could add a piece of art to the Capitol and have it symbolize your belief of we the people, would it be a new painting? A new statue? What would be the subject? Who would be in it? Now let's go take a look at where the House of Representatives worked before they moved down the hall to their current chamber. We are now in National Statuary Hall. Currently, we see many statues, but for nearly 50 years, 1807 through 1857, the House of Representatives met in this room. Here they passed laws funding programs for America's growth, which Congress still does today. We see the room with statues and shiny floors, but imagine the room thick with tobacco smoke, the floor sticky with tobacco spittle, and dirt from the unpaved roads of Washington, D.C. Sitting up in the public viewing gallery would have given you a front row seat to the often heated debates over westward expansion. Two of the biggest issues Congress debated when they met in this chamber were the institution of slavery and the rights of Native Americans. Our definition of "we the people" was still developing at this time, and people had very different ideas about how the country should grow. It played out here in Congress through constant debate, which led to a number of compromises. If you're studying American history, maybe you have heard of them. For example, this is the room where they passed the Missouri Compromise in 1820. The territory of Missouri wanted to enter the Union as a state that permitted slavery, but if they did, then there would have been more slave states than free states in the Union, and pro-slavery states would have had a majority in the Senate, something that the free states wouldn't support. So, they compromised. Missouri was admitted as a slave state, and Maine a free state. The Missouri Compromise also established the 36th parallel as the line for future expansion across the Louisiana Territory. Above the line would be free states, below would be slave states. The Missouri Compromise kept a fragile peace for 30 years. If you were a member of Congress in 1820, what might have been your choice? And what about the people who already lived in the territories that were now becoming parts of the United States? Did they have a voice? Just as enslaved people had no rights under the law, Native Americans weren't considered citizens of the United States during this time. They made treaties with the U.S. government, but those were constantly challenged as the country grew. In 1830, Congress passed the Indian Removal Act. It opened up more land to white settlers by forcing the relocation of Native Americans to the newly designated Indian Territory, west of the Mississippi River, to what we now know as the state of Oklahoma. These issues about slavery and Native American land rights were debated throughout the time that the House of Representatives met in this room. Congress tried to keep the country together by passing the Compromise of 1850 and the Kansas-Nebraska Act in 1854, which, like the Missouri Compromise and the Indian Removal Act, attempted to balance the number of free and slave states while expanding the country into traditional Native American lands. But neither side was happy with these laws, and sometimes the debates over issues became tense. During one debate in 1854, anti-slavery Northerners and pro-slavery Southerners insulted each other and showed their weapons on the floor of the House. The debate nearly ended in violence. 2 years later, a senator from Massachusetts, Charles Sumner, gave a fiery speech on the Senate floor called "The Crime Against Kansas." A member of the House of Representatives from South Carolina, Preston Brooks, felt insulted by the speech and beat Senator Sumner with his cane a few days later, nearly killing him. Eventually, these disagreements led to our Civil War. How is this version of America different from today? What was their idea of "we the people"? Outside of the debates, the 1840s and 50s were also decades of expansion, technological advancement, and even the creation of American pastimes. Railroads made commerce and travel faster for American businesses and the public. A trip that used to take a day and a half on a stagecoach pulled by horses took less than a day with the railroad. In 1844, Samuel Morse revolutionized the way information traveled. A letter could have taken months to get from one end of the country to the other. Now with Morse's telegraph, you could send a message instantly over wires. Think of it like the 1840s version of texting. And he sent the very first telegraph between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore from the Capitol building. In 1846, after a decade of debate, Congress established the Smithsonian Institution to be the caretaker of the country's collective history. Today, the Smithsonian Institution is the world's largest museum education, and research complex, with 19 museums and the National Zoo. Do you know what else developed in the 1840s? Baseball! Evolving from pickup games on empty lots to a game with written rules and organized clubs. Even members of Congress took up baseball, and since 1909, members have played against each other in the Congressional Baseball Game. By the 1850s, Congress realized that it needed a bigger building because the country had gotten bigger. More states meant more representatives and senators. Construction of the expansion wings commenced in 1854. 3 years later, in 1857, the House of Representatives moved down the hall to their current chamber, and the Senate moves into theirs in 1859. Now that the old hall of the House was empty, what would you use it for? It was used for exhibitions and events, sometimes storage, but mostly as just a way to get to the current House chamber. Wanting to honor the history of the room and make it a more formal space, Congress enacted Representative Justin Morrill's proposal on July 2, 1864, and the room became National Statuary Hall. The law invited each state to provide 2 statues, either marble or bronze, of persons they deemed important to their state's history. A more recent update to the law in 2000 allows states to remove a statue and replace it with another. The replaced statue then returns to the state. The original idea was to place each state statue in this room, but this was long before we had 50 states. In 1933, Congress decided that due to overcrowding and some engineering concerns, that the statues could be placed throughout the Capitol building. What is your favorite statue is one of the most frequently asked questions that tour guides receive. My favorite is Robert Fulton, inventor of the first commercial steamboat. The Pennsylvania statue has been in the collection since 1889. The statue shows him admiring the model of his steamboat, with books and building tools around the chair. The details are outstanding, from ruffles on the shirt sleeves to the curls in his hair. Howard Roberts, the artist, was considered one of the finest sculptors in the United States in the 1870s due to the amazing detail in his works. Unfortunately, he did not complete many projects, so his legacy has been somewhat forgotten, but at least we can appreciate his artistry here in National Statuary Hall. If you would like to look up your state's statues, links will be provided at the end of the tour. Of the 36 statues on our eye level, there is one that has not been given by a state, a statue of Rosa Parks. Commissioned by Congress in 2005, just after she passed away, and was the first woman to lie in honor in the Rotunda, honoring her for her lifelong work for civil rights and social justice. The statue was the first full-length statue commissioned by Congress since 1873. Throughout American history, we have seen how citizens used their First Amendment rights of free speech, free press, peaceful assembly, and petitioning our government to change our definition of we the people. Congress reflects that change. Today's Congress is the most racially and ethnically diverse in our history, and 1/4 of each chamber are women, the most ever elected. Congress is we the people. I know we have covered a lot of information in a short amount of time, and knowing that you may want to research more about the topics we covered, links to additional resources are provided in the description of the video. It was a pleasure of mine to take you on a journey through the building and talk of the history that occurred within its walls. On behalf of the United States Congress and my colleagues at the Capitol Visitor Center, we hope your travels will one day bring you to visit the United States Capitol.